let's welcome everyone. Welcome to this special broadcast, and today we are addressing a very serious issue, one that I must say that is developing, and so we didn't want to sit on it. We have with us today Mr. Jason Skeet, and he is the president of the Grenada Steel Bands Association. Now folks, there is some sort of controversy brewing that we thought it is really necessary to address this right now. Now we are coming out of a very successful carnival in many respects. We have also seen the staging of the panorama. And of course, by many indications, it may have seemed to be one of the most successful panorama tournaments or competitions that we've had in a while. What we can attribute that to, we'll talk about that as well today. But the primary concern here today is there seem to be some sort of no confidence motion brewing against the current president, and we do not want to speculate, so we have decided to bring him on to the studio today to talk to us about that. Ladies and gentlemen, on your screen is the current president of the Grenada Steel Band Association, Mr. Jason Skeet. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Mikey, and good afternoon to your viewers as well.
Okay, so Jason, what we are learning now is that there seem to be some sort of no confidence motion brewing against you. The first question I'm asking you today is, do you have any knowledge of that?
Let me categorically say that the first time I heard about this was earlier on during the course of the day when one media outlet called me asking me for a comment on the AGM that is scheduled for Saturday and the fact that a no confidence motion, they heard from reliable sources, according to them, that a no confidence motion is quote unquote in play against the president and the executive. My response to that was, as I'm going to say to you now, that I have no knowledge of it. I only heard of it then. And as I told that media outlet as well, it is laughable. And if it is true, then it is beyond laughable. It is possibly foolish.
Okay. It is possibly foolish. Now, let me ask you this. Now, let us say that this is true. All right? Why? Do you have any knowledge or any indication as to why this might be happening?
I tell you this, and before I go any further, let me just first of all say, thanks to all the people who came out and supported Panorama 2018. What we saw at Panorama 2018 was a first because it was owing to the fact that we had some excessive rains in the days leading up to, and we had to bring the two competitions together, both junior and senior. And, sometimes, as I tell people, when you ask God for certain things, He may not give it to you how you want it, but He gives it to you once it is according to His will. And I honestly believe that what we saw was, God's will manifesting itself and taking control of this art form that we claim to love. So we had a successful panorama, and I want to say thanks a lot and congratulations to the winners, and thanks to all the people who came out and support. Okay. Having said that, it has been no secret that PAN has been riddled with controversy over the years. What I, as president, and this executive, this present executive, one of the decisions that we have made when we took office on the 14th of October last year was to manage those outbursts, those instances, that bacchanalish attitude. We made a very serious commitment to manage that. Right. People cannot continue to see Steel Band as bacchanal and rara and riri. It is a wonderful instrument, and we must be able to treat with it in that way on all levels. And we took a very serious approach to making sure we manage that. So hence the reason why a lot of things would have happened even leading up to Panorama, but we continue to always accentuate the positive. We've had situations where the vice president who we voted in had to be removed by the council because the Constitution says that no sitting manager or ranger is eligible to serve on the executive. And this gentleman was voted onto the executive as the manager of the Rainbow City All-Stars, and the council removed him. I couldn't remove him. The council removed him. We've had a situation where our elected secretary, Casey Frederick, has been basically absent since January. We've had a situation where we've had the people within the steel band movement in January of last year, 3 months or 4 months into this present executive, attempting to file a no confidence motion within 3 months for whatever reason God alone knows. We've had that. We've had we've had a number of, you know, instances that it can take me the rest of the day. But one of the things that we did was to make sure that we kept those things under wraps, because we didn't want anything to interfere with this ultimate showdown product called Panorama. We think it was important and critical that we did that. Right. You know, a lot of the talk about the report from the Prime Minister, and I tell people I want to see the report. Nobody wants to see the report more than me as the President. But am I going to go kicking and screaming and kicking down the Prime Minister's door for the report? Am I going to go chastising the Prime Minister or the Minister or anybody in public and being disrespectful? Am I going to do that? No. The Prime Minister has to do what he has to do. And I'm quite sure that the time will come when we will get it. Do I want it immediately? Do I want it right away? Of course. But how many things do we want right away that we can get? There are protocol and there are procedures. And we can't go about seeming to saying, you know, we want to do things the right way in a professional manner, but at the same time, kicking and screaming behind people. That is not going to work. Okay. So we've had that. We've had people raising those concerns, and as a matter of fact, we even had, and I make mention of this, there was one steel band leader, Brian Sylvester of Republic Bank Angel Labs, who went into the media about 3 or 4 days after receiving information from the Steel Band Association saying that we don't know what is happening, you know, the same thing that happened last year is going to happen again. And these things inciting people to have negative connotations against steel band is not going to work. You know, we've had situations where he himself made derogatory comments on photos with me and my wife on Facebook. I recorded it, I took a shot of it, and I deleted it because I don't think steel band needs that. So we've had a number of internal issues. And one of the things that I made a very cognizant effort to do is to maintain these things under wraps. But as I told people, now that Panorama is over, there comes a time when there needs to be open heart surgery on this animal. And if this animal is going to live, if this animal is going to be preserved, there comes a point when we need to do some open heart surgery. And business as usual, the way it used to be done, the kicking, the screaming, the quarreling, the public bacchanalish attitude, it has to stop. It has to stop. We've just come from one of the best and the biggest Panorama events that we've had in years. Steel bands would have received collectively in excess of $350,000 this year. When you calculate prize monies and subventions, and it is in excess of $300,000 easily. So what is the fuss? Corporate Grenada has started to show more interest in us. The people in Grenada has started to say, you know what? We love what we saw this year in Panorama, so we want this thing to continue. We want this thing to be huge again, and we want to support. So I'm throwing all of that out to say, right, if that is the direction in which the Steel Band Association wants to go, then hey, fine. I'm good with it. Because, as I tell people, Mikey, my kids don't play pan with any band. I am not playing pan in any band. My wife is not either. So, really and truly, I have nothing to gain. I have nothing to lose. I am only doing this because of the genuine love that is placed in my heart, because I know what steel band did for me as a youth growing up. Okay,
but steel band has always been at the center of controversy. Why is that the case? Are these as a result of who was involved, or are there really genuine concerns that somewhat needs to be like dealt with seriously, hence that aggressive PR about PAN in general?
Yeah. You see, I tell you something. I'm agreeing with you in saying that there are some genuine issues and concerns which needs to be addressed. But Rome wasn't built in a day. And you cannot address your issues without the right attitude. I mean, we walked into a situation, Mikey, where the Steel Band Association was operating without a letterhead, without an email address in 2017, without, I mean, an active Facebook page, without an office. Now, you can only get so far, because you see, you can't get corporate dollars if you don't adapt the corporate attitude. And all the concerns and the issues that you have, people must be able to see you making a genuine effort to fix yourself, so then they can assist in fixing your issues. But if every time something turns up, you're going to go kicking and screaming and kicking down the door, and what is the point? I mean, we've had a situation where, and I'll be very plain with this, because as I told the members of the executive, which we agreed upon, which the executive collectively agreed upon, is that it is time now to let this monster be dealt with. We had a situation on Panorama Night where one executive member used obscene towards me and an excessive amount of obscene to the vice president. Wrote him about it, and he proceeded to have a lawyer write me, simply because I told him he need to apologize. I don't understand why. The letter was copied to the executive members. It was copied to the people who were present. It was also copied to the sponsor of the band and the manager of the band, because it is important. These people need to know what is happening. You cannot be carrying the name of the sponsor and the sponsor doesn't know what you're doing. Right? The sponsor needs to be informed. That is their decision to make. We've had a situation where the arranger for Flow Comancheros, Andre Greenwich, was at the VIP booth on Panorama Night behaving very disrespectful in the presence of the minister's wife, right? In the presence of other people as well. We've had a situation where that same gentleman was on the MTV News speaking about somebody falling off the stage and was hospitalized, and that was not true. The gentleman was hospitalized. We sympathize with what transpired, but the fact is he fell off the Comancheros chassis, not the stage. So I wrote Mr. Greenwich a nice letter, telling him, that his utterances were untrue and that he should attempt to retract the statement via the same medium, which I think was in good professional taste. And he wrote me back on my personal email address, being very abusive to me.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So all these little things, they are not helping us. And if we're going to fix PAN, and if we want the corporate community to come back into PAN, then we have to change that. Filing a no confidence motion against me or anybody or any other member of the executive is not going to change the problem. What is going to change this problem that we're having is when the people who we're representing decides to adopt a different attitude towards growing and developing themselves.
All right. How do you see the PAN going forward? And you have alluded to that already.
Yeah.
If the general public continues to get the impression that the Steel PAN Association and somewhat to some degree some PAN players and so just don't have their priorities together, they just cannot get along, how does that work?
Well, ultimately it's going to compromise PAN. Ultimately it's going to compromise the young people who are playing, because we have a lot of young people involved in the steel band movement, more so than senior people. When I stood on Panorama Day and I looked at these young people on stage, and seeing the joy that they played with, and it brought tears to me, because I was emotional about it, and I was happy for them. It had nothing to do with me. I have no vested interest in it. But ultimately it's going to impact on them, because they're the ones who stay up late at nights practicing for hours And they do it out of love. How much of them, ask any one of them, how much do you get paid? Steel Band gets hundreds of thousands of dollars per year from government. And ask any of these young players playing for Panorama, how much did you get paid? What did you get? What did you get personally? And most of them, if not all of them, will tell you nothing because they're doing it for love. A lot of the money goes to the arrangers, making sure the band is ready, the instruments, the transportation, the logistics, the uniforms, and all of that. And my thing is, Mikey, if after all these years, that is what you're still using the money to do, it means that we're doing business wrong. Steel Band must get to the point where our players must feel some level of commitment because of, not just because of love, but because of tangible compensation. We must get to that.
Right.
And we cannot get to that if we continue to be disrespectful to leadership and disrespectful to one another, especially in public.
Okay, let's talk about what the consensus is among the leadership of PAN in general, towards you, towards Jason Skeet, or towards the president of the Steel Bands Association.
Yeah.
Let's say there is going to be a vote of no confidence that involves the majority of persons, the stakeholders. Where do you think you stand with that? Where do you think they will vote?
Mikey, in all honest truth, it doesn't bother me. You know why it doesn't bother me? Because, let me tell you, let me get a little bit personal here now, which I really shouldn't do, and let me tell you about Jason Skeet. A lot of people see Jason Skeet and don't know him because they see me, but they don't know me. Honestly, Mikey, I cherish my family. As a young man growing up, me and my wife, we do not always agree like any other married couple. We have our arguments as husband and wife, but I cherish my family. I cherish my wife and my kids. And at the end of the day, when I get home and my kids run to the door and say, "Daddy reach, Daddy's home," and my wife asks me, "How was your day?" You know, my wife always greets me with either a glass of water or a glass of juice when I get home. And Mikey, whichever way the vote goes, it doesn't bother me. Because I am only here helping the same people who are getting all the money. Let me share something with you. I told Steel Band when I became the president.
Hold on. The same people getting all the money, hold on. What does that mean really? When you say that, what do you mean?
Well, out of the $300 and something thousand, I as the president or any member of my executive, we don't get a cent. We do it for free. And let me tell you why I'm saying that.
Are you saying other people don't do it for free?
I could only speak for myself.
Okay.
I know that as the president, I don't get a cent. And let me tell you this. Let me tell you why. When I took up the office of president of the Steel Band Association, there were a number of things that I decided to do. And I said to them, if Steel Band has to change its image, we must have a place of a board. Steel Band didn't have an office. This Grenada Steel Band Association was operating outside of people's personal dwelling. And I said to them, no. So I took a part of my office. You've been to my office. You interviewed me at my office before. And I committed that portion of the office, sectioned it off to Steel Band. My stationery bill has increased. My light bill has increased. My phone bill has increased exponentially. My fuel bill has increased. I have never won the Access Steel Band Association for a cent. Right? There was one time we had an executive meeting and one of the executive members said, Mr. President, this month we want to assist in paying your phone bill. And they wrote a check to Digicel for $229. And they wrote a check to Grenlec for $50. So 229 plus 50 is $279. And I'm saying that to say for the last year, since October to now, the Steel Band Association Secretariat has been running outside of my office. And I am the person who is extending. There are other members of the executive who are doing it as well, who are extending their time and their effort and putting money into making sure this thing functions properly. So I'm saying all of that to say, whichever way it goes, it doesn't bother me. I want to serve and I want to do what's best for Steel Band because I know what Steel Band did for me. A lot of people don't know that. I grew up on the Carnage, Mikey. At a time when the Carnage was an area where you're talking about bad boy thing and drugs and whatnot, and I went to the Pan House. Pan saved me. When everything else was happening around me, solace was in the Pan House. So I knew what Pan did for me. So I'm doing this simply because I know what it did for me, and I see a lot of these young people hoping that it does the same thing for them. But if ultimately the membership say, Jason Skeet, we had enough for you as president in 1 year despite everything else, hey then. Hey, praise God and go with God, to God be the glory.
What does the Constitution say about this though? In terms of when and how the process or the procedure that one needs to follow or the association needs to follow in order to effect that sort of immediate change with the leadership of the association?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even think that the Constitution speaks to it in any detail, because one of the things that the public doesn't know as well, which I'm going to share now, is that the Grenada Steel Bands Association Constitution was only put into effect. This present Constitution was only put into effect on the 14th of October last year. Prior to that, the Steel Band Association I was told, was operating with a one-page document called a Constitution. We now literally have 20-something page document, I think it is, which still is being revamped and reworked, you know. So to say that I can pinpoint the point into the part of the Constitution that speaks directly to it, I can't. And
okay.
Do I even, honestly, Mikey, do I even care to find out? The honest truth is, because it has never been in my thoughts, even though it was something that surfaced before. It was never in my thoughts. My thoughts was only doing well and trying to see how we can get the steel band movement going and change people's perception of what we do and how we are. And well, I can say I've done that.
Yeah, and speaking of that now, so you are the president, and presidents are allowed to sit for 2 years?
2 years.
2 years, okay. So if things are to continue the way it's supposed to, then you have another year.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What can we look forward to, Mr. President, where PAN is concerned for the next year?
Mikey, let me say this. Honestly, I am disheartened. Honestly, I'm dissatisfied. I am not driven anymore, because I understand, you know, people are going to say things. I know that. I appreciate that. I've had many things said about me in life. And people who know me see me walking the road with my head high still. But what hurts me most is when the same people who you're fighting for are the ones doing it. Mm-hmm. So do I want to even continue as president? I'm not even sure. That is a decision that I am going to have to sit and ponder and make. I'm going to discuss it with a number of the bands, because I do have support from a lot of the bands. But I'm going to sit and I'm going to discuss it with them, and I'm going to make a decision on it. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you what are some of the things that I've already put in place. One, over the last 10 years, there has been a back and forth with a MOU between the Steel Band Association and the government. And within the last 6 months, we've been able under this new executive to redo that MOU, have it submitted to the ministry, agreed in principle. It is now sitting at the Legal Affairs Department, where it is being vetted by the government's legal team, and all indications it should be signed off within the coming weeks. The other thing is that the Schools Learners Program, which was halted by the Ministry of Education for whatever reason, I don't know. They have had their own internal reasons why they would have halted it. I know some of it, but I'm not at liberty to speak it. That now is going to be redone under this new MOU, so that all the steel bands who would participate would now be compensated through by the ministry through the Steel Bands Association, so that more schools can get involved and more bands can get involved. Right. We've also started to open the doors of communication between us and the Chinese embassy. We wrote them I spoke to them on the phone and it was favorable, and we are now in the process of sorting a meeting to deal with even, you know, seeing how we can deal with more training and development and steel band tuning. We've spoken to a gentleman out of Trinidad who works in Europe that has already given us a quote for doing a steel band making and tuning program. That over a 3-year period, according to the document we got from him, is just over 250,000 EC dollars over a 3-year period, which it might sound a lot, but it's not, simply because collectively steel bands spend just over $100,000 a year paying tuners that come into Grenada and leave. So these are just some of the things that are in play, and it is in play that whether I'm the president or not, it is up to whoever is there to make it happen, because it is already there and in place. So all they need to do is to follow through on it, because ultimately I'm not going to live forever on this earth. I believe I'm going to live forever in heaven, but I'm not going to live forever on this earth. So whatever I do, there must be some kind of succession plan so that when I'm not here, it has to continue. And so whether I'm here or not, you know, but as I said, am I motivated to continue? The honest truth is, no, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess as much we have to wait and see. Saturday is the general
AGM.
Well, it's the AGM.
Yeah.
And what we've been hearing is probably there will be a vote of no confidence there.
However it goes, it doesn't matter to me.
However it goes, it doesn't matter.
Honestly, it doesn't. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. It doesn't matter to me. Because, you see, I tell you something, you know, my wife looked at me after hearing some ludicrous comments and reading some comments under a photo of me and my wife that one member posted, which was very disrespectful. My wife looked at me one day and she said, she's very supportive. Everything. I mean, we go visiting bands leading up to Panorama, and my wife in the vehicle with the kids. You know, sometimes we driving and she's sleeping, but she coming along. And she said to me, you know something? If this is what being president of the Steel Band Association is about, you probably need to be a bigger president at home.
Wow.
And that says a lot.
Yeah, that's deep.
That's deep. Because I am the president at home, and I'm confident about that. But she says to me, what she is saying is that the effort and the time that you're devoting to Steel Band, maybe they ain't ready for it yet. So give us some more of that at home. And you're married, so you know when your wives speak.
Yeah, is that a blows? All right, Jason, I thought it was really necessary to bring this whole issue to the people, and we don't want no back and forth. I want to get it straight from the man himself. I don't want to hear it from anybody else, folks, and you know we don't mess around with information. So here we have decided to bring the man himself, Mr. Jason Skeet. This is a culture, and if discussing the culture and so on doesn't deserve your time at this time of the day, then what does, right? So hence, we decided to do this and not just put it on a little video and post, but to discuss, you know, real time. It is about time we take our culture serious. That's the only way it can grow. That's the only time when people will take you serious, when they see how you take it. Yeah?
You see, I tell you something, Mikey, just before we wrap up. I look back, and you know, people speak about politicians, and I don't get involved in the politics and the thing, but I sit down and I look at this current Minister for Culture, Senator Nolan Cox, and I see this man the day of Panorama coming in the stadium, working, moving chairs, moving this, making sure that organized. Every day the minister would call me, come along by the stadium, check up on the stage. It's $140-something thousand plus that was spent to build that stage, specifically for Pan. And this minister has been there. I mean, that deserves my respect more than anything else. And I mean, how can I not have respect for his efforts and appreciate his commitment? You know, I've seen it. We've had a better working relationship now with the SMC. you know, and steel band, because people want to talk. Yes, we understand. Hey, let me tell you something. As somebody who play pan Mikey, you can't vex if a pan man get emotional, because let me tell you what he gets emotional about. A pan man stands in the same position for 4 hours every night for 3 months, playing the same song in preparation to go on stage to play it for 10 minutes. Now, imagine that happens with 80, 90 people in one band and you have 10 bands. So we understand the emotion that is built up, but it is not an excuse to be disrespectful.
Okay.
It is not.
Okay. All right. And that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Jason, Mr. Ski, Mr. President, President of the Steel Band Association, I want to again thank you very much for coming and letting us know what's going on. It will be a matter of time. I think it's probably on Monday. We will get to hear more about the outcome of the AGM and the pending or the rumored, no confidence motion.
Whichever way it goes, Mikey, God be the glory. I'm good. Okay. I'm good. I'm good within myself.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough, Jason. And folks, that's Jason Skeet. He's the current president of the Grenada Steel Bands Association. Yes. And what we have found out today is that there could be he could be facing a no confidence motion when he attends the AGM on Saturday. That's as much as we can do for now. You can tune in to Mikey Live tonight for more on this new development. May God bless you. See you this evening at 9 p.m.